Hello, dear fans, friends, and subscribers. This is your host Ram with you on the cricket show, Cricket Happenings. Welcome to everybody to the welcoming everybody to the Cricket Happening show as usual on Saturday, the 25th of February. As this cricket show, what I'm going to talk about is as you know, England once again having the stranglehold on New Zealand in the second test match. The first test is, England have already won it, and England are making cricket very exciting, especially test matches with their exciting brand of cricket that they play. But here it was a different story altogether when England were really in the dumps at one stage at 21 for 3, and that a very massive, a mammoth partnership between Harry Brook, the young, sensational player from England, who had his highest score of 186, and Joe Root, the master tactician or master craftsman, as we call him, making 153 not out and taking England out of a morass, one could call, as they were 21 for 3, reeling at one stage. But then, finally, if you look at the tally, thanks to Root and Brook, they sat at 435. They gave the luxury to their very, very innovative captain, Ben Stokes, to go and declare the innings closed at 435 for 8. And the New Zealand innings, they had the New Zealand innings in an absolute tizzy, as you would call it, as the New Zealand were at a stage where they lost 7 wickets for 138 runs, with only the rain actually coming and really, really helping matters. But that is something, Ben Stokes definitely has it in mind, and that's the precise reason he declared. And New Zealand are trailing by 297 runs. So basically, another 98 runs still needed by New Zealand today when play starts. Probably as I'm talking to you, another 2.5 hours from now, play will start at the Basin Reserve in Welllington, and we'll see whether New Zealand can. But if you and I'll be talking about that. And besides that, keeping the news still on New Zealand with the Sri Lankan tour of New Zealand coming up. The Sri Lankan team has been announced, where they have laid more emphasis on quick bowlers rather than spin. They just have one genuine spinner, and they have gone for a lot of quickies for the tour of New Zealand. So whether that will be the right one will be known when the Sri Lankans tour New Zealand. So first, let's head towards England versus New Zealand. As I said, it's day 2, and New Zealand are trailing by 97 runs. And let's look at the story as to what panned out in the second test at the Basin Reserve in Welllington. So first and foremost, the toss was a very good toss to win. The conditions were ideal for bowling, and New Zealand, Blair Tickner, as you know, he said that. Even though he made his debut, he and Coughlin made their debut. Coughlin was out with the injury, but Blair Tickner, feel very sorry for him. His house got ravaged by the floods in New Zealand, and that's the precise reason he was not selected. He opted to come out of it. And Matt Henry probably coming back after the birth of his first child. So that's the precise reason he was not there for the first test. But here he comes for the second test and makes a big difference. And as you would see, as to what he did. So as I said, the toss was a good toss to win for New Zealand. And Tim Southee immediately put the Englishman in conditions which were ideal for swing bowling. As you know, Basin Reserve in Welllington is known to generate the swing, no doubt about it. And let's have a look at the story as to what happened on the first day. Looking at the first day, it was Zach Crawley who had absolutely no idea. One did not know what he was doing. Whether he was going to play at the ball or trying to drag the ball away from drag the bat away from the ball at the last moment. But whatever be the case, the damage was done. Matt Henry had already struck, and he was gone, caught by Blundell behind the sticks for two. So that was wicket number one when Zach Crawley was sent back to the pavilion, and the score read 5-1. And then the next to follow was the um turn of Ollie Pope. Now, Ollie Pope, he played some good strokes in his knock of 10 runs. He hit two good boundaries. And after that, this was Matt Henry, who definitely has that ability to move the ball. And here he comes, getting the ball to swerve away from Ollie Pope. And he was bowling in that off, as you call it, the corridor, the off cordon, and that's where he bowled on the off stump, and the ball it straightened on the off stump, but when Pope actually looked to play at it, the ball just took the edge and flew to third slip, and that was the end of Ollie Pope, caught by Bracewell. What a catch from Bracewell. I mean, it was what a wonderful catch from Bracewell. Michael Bracewell, as you know, he's a one very good player for the future for New Zealand. He also showed his fielding skills here, diving full length and putting in a great dive at third slip and snaffling it. And that was the end of Ollie Pope. 2 wickets were down for 21, and it did not take long for Saudi to strike this time, getting the wicket of Ben Duckett. Again, Bracewell coming into the picture, this time a catch, which was once again taken, a good catch, but not as great as what he did it for Ollie Pope. And here he was in Ben Duckett. In fact, it was a spectacular catch, no doubt about it. But the first one was probably a catch which was taken. One could say it was much easier than than the next one, and that's what precisely happened. But it was very, very well swallowed by Bracewell there of the bowling of Saudi. Now, this was a delivery which basically had Ben Duckett actually trying to play at that delivery, and that was the end of Ben Duckett. He got a nick on the trying to drive the ball, and that was the end. And that is the time this England batting and Saudi's decision of putting in England was totally justified, and England were reeling at 21 for 3, and there were two new batsmen at the crease. One was the master craftsman and the former captain Joe Root, and he was joined in by the young sensational player from England, Harry Brook. And both were in the middle, and definitely at that particular time, England innings was staring down the barrel for sure. And after that, even though a bit of a Harry Brook is someone who initially gets some anxious moments when he starts, but after that he took off like grease lightning, one could call, and one saw what they did, and suddenly from 21 for 3, Joe Root and Harry Brooks started playing his strokes, and Joe Root and Harry Brook, my word, what a partnership from these two blokes. And especially, as I said, Joe Root was all about class. They frustrated the New Zealanders, and New Zealand, who thought that 21 for 3, they had this England batting order in a real spin or a real bind, one could call, but it was not to be. As a record partnership in New Zealand, this became the highest partnership for any wicket in New Zealand for England, which was 302 runs were added between Joe Root, who made a classy unbeaten 153, which included 10 fours and 3 sixes. And what a knock from Joe Root. At the other end, it was like a master at one end and the pupil, Harry Brook, at the other end, as you call. And it was something that it was really worth watching this partnership. Harry Brook, as you know, he makes batting look pretty easy on the eye, and he was stroking the ball to a nicety. And for him, it didn't matter who was the bowler. He knew only one way to hit boundaries, and especially considering when Harry Brook plays the stroke, he plays with power, with timing. He hits you. He has all the strokes in his repertoire, and as he unveiled each and every stroke, depending on each and every ball that was bowled to him. And Harry Brook, what a knock from Harry Brook! He went on to score. This is his fourth century in 6 Test matches. He had a Bradman-esque average, one could call. Only Sunil Gavaskar, the former Indian batsman, and the Australian player Sir Donald Bradman, have got such records. And here comes this bloke from England who has been blazing a trail in world cricket, and looking at the way he did it, he went on to his fourth Test run. And what a way to come! He came in at a real crisis point for England. And as I said, it was the master Joe Root at one end crafting an innings of real value, but at the other end, it was Harry Brook playing with that refreshing freedom that he has always done. And this innings was growing in proportion, and finally, it grew out of proportion as 302 runs were added, and that made the score look 320, or it took the score to 323. Just imagine, from a position at 21 for 3, England were 321 for 3, with Harry Brook and Joe Root not separated. And Harry Brook, all eyes were on him. He had his highest score was 156, I suppose, against Pakistan in the last Test series. And all the eyes were on him whether Harry Brook will go on to a double century. As we all know, Harry Brook, he is 24 years of age. But as you all know, the world record for the fastest century, or fastest century, stands, or the youngest player to score a century, a double century in Test cricket, stands. This is a big record according to me, because this particular record is someone. It is going to really take, I think, years to break this record. And the man who holds this record is none other than the street fighting cricketer from Pakistan, Javed Miandad, who actually at the age of 19 scored a double century in Test cricket. So Harry Brook, well, he probably won't be there, but as I said, looking at people who have played 8 or 9 Test matches, Don Bradman and Sunny Gavaskar are the best, but Harry Brook is following them. It's only his 6th Test match, and he has amassed 800 runs in Test cricket. Besides that, he has a 350s to his credit as well. And look at this knock of his, 186, as he hit the ball back at Henry on the second day. And it was all over for Harry Brook after his innings came to an end. 186, which came of 176 deliveries, which included 24 fours and 5 sixes. What a player for England, Harry Brook. So that was Harry Brook. After that, Ben Stokes came and played a cameo of 27 with 5 boundaries. And then Bracewell was amongst the wickets as well. Ben Foakes was out for naught, coming down the wicket to Bracewell. Stuart Broad made 14. LBW bowled Bracewell. Ollie Robinson 18. Jack Leach was not out on 6. And as I said, with the rain coming, the rain always forecast at the Basin Reserve in Welllington. Ben Stokes came up with this declaration, which was not a surprise at all, as he declared the innings closed at 435 for 8 declared. And Matt Henry made a big difference coming into this particular match. 22.1 overs, 3 maidens, 100 runs on 4 wickets. They really jacked the ball both ways, and that was good to see. 1 for 93, Tim Southee. Daryl Mitchell, none for 61. Neil Wagner, once again, after a hit for more than 100 runs in the first Test match, again did not find his bearings, and his 21 overs cost him 119 runs with a wicket to his name. And Michael Bracewell picked up 2 good wickets on the second day, 2 for 54, his figures of 11 overs, 435 for 8 declared. And then it was the turn of the New Zealand batting to come and face the music against the England bowlers, especially James Anderson and Stuart Broad. And look at what James Anderson did. The difference here was England recovered from 21 for 3 to 435, but New Zealand could not recover from a same score of 21 for 3, which with immense damage done by none other than James Anderson at the age of 40, and they kept on looking. Kept on losing a lot of wickets as they ended up with 138 for 7 on the second day. So looking at the wickets here, it was Devon Conway who was the first. There was a bit of a doubt, but then this was a particular delivery from James Anderson, bursting through Devon Conway's defense. They were really having a chatter as to whether they should go for the review. Finally, they went for the review, and out came the verdict that Devon Conway had definitely got a nick onto it, and it has hit the shoulder of the bat, and Ben Foakes had taken the catch, and Devon Conway was on his way back to the pavilion for a duck. So that was the first wicket, 1 for 1 for New Zealand. And then the next wicket to go. Now, Kane Williamson's a big question mark, because Kane Williamson, this has been the problem area for New Zealand, according to me. The former captain has been really struggling. He failed in the first test match, and once again in the second test match, he has gone. Now, this was, to me, it was just a moment away from the bat. And this was a stroke which Williamson probably could have avoided, but Anderson, bowling a ball which got a good moment away from the bat, and Williamson, I thought, got really sucked into it, and Kane Williamson was out for 4. Caught Foakes, bowled Anderson, and then Foakes once again coming to the picture when Anderson produced a peach of a delivery to Will Young, which, it was an unplayable delivery, as we call it, because he was on the forward prod, and the ball took the feather edge of Will Young's bat and settled snugly in the gloves of Ben Foakes, and that was the end of Will Young. And as I said, the New Zealanders were reduced to 21 for 3, but after that, it was going to be very tough, with Anderson breaking the back of the New Zealand innings, and then Tom Latham tried to rein himself in, but he was there till he made 35, and then the spinner Leach taking over, picking up the wicket of Tom Latham, who was caught by Root. Now, this was something which was a big undoing, according to me, of Tom Latham. With the current situation, why would Tom Latham go for a reverse sweep shot that he did, and Joe Root took the catch in the slips. The next to go was another wicket, which was Henry Nicholls, another one who was guilty of playing the sweep shot. And he also went for the reverse sweep shot. And that was the end of Henry Nicholls as well. So this was 2 irresponsible strokes played by 2 experienced players, in my opinion. Henry Nicholls also left for 30, caught Bowl Leach for 30 with 5 boundaries. And then Daniel Mitchell, just on the stroke of tee, prodded to a delivery from Leach, and Pope with great anticipation at Silly Point taking that catch, and Mitchell was out for 13, and Michael Bracewell giving catching practice to Stuart Broad was caught and bowled for 6. And as stumps were drawn for the second day of the second test match, where, as I said, New Zealand are trailing by 297 runs with 3 wickets. Blundell was looking good in his knock-off, carrying on further from his first innings century, where he almost saved New Zealand, was not on 25 with 3 boundaries. And Tim Southee, the captain, hitting 2 lusty blows, sending Broad into the stands with a massive hit, and also hitting 1 more 6, was not out on 23, 1, 4, and 2 sixes, as New Zealand closed the day at 138 for 7, with rain coming to their rescue, and New Zealand walking off to the pavilion. James Anderson, 3 for 37, 1 for 50 Broad, and 3 for 45. Now, just a sneak peek here at the Sri Lankan tour of New Zealand, which is coming up, and the Sri Lankan squad has been selected. As I said, Sri Lanka have given more emphasis on getting a real sort of quickies into the mix, considering that this is a tour of New Zealand, and they are going with just 1 solitary spinner, and he's Prabhat Jayasuriya, the left armer, who did well against Australia. So he's the only spinner in the camp. Other than that, the Sri Lankan squad is, to me, has been stocked with a lot of bowlers, especially quick bowlers. So I don't know whether this was the right choice. It will be seen when the Sri Lankans embark on the Test series against New Zealand. But just telling you the squad here, and also another thing to notice here is that Patham Nissanka, according to me, was one of the finds for Sri Lanka. And I'm absolutely baffled here. I can say that the word is baffled by seeing Patham Nissanka not even figuring in the ranks of the. And I think that he's a very, very good player. And not seeing him in the team, to me, really, really, shocks me actually, because he's a wonderful talent. And for Patham Nissanka not figuring in the Sri Lankan squad, really, really, is something which I'm really baffled, according to me. And let's have a look at and he's a perfect test match player, has the best technique. And, I understand he's a bit of out of form, but especially considering that Patham Nissanka is someone that the Sri Lankans have invested in, I think he should have been figured in the team. Let's have a look at the squad here. Dimat Karunaratne, once again, the captain will lead the side. Osado Fernando is back in the mix. Kushal Mendes is in some very, very good form. He has been doing well in the franchisee leagues as well. Angelo Matthews will greatly strengthen the experience, the solid experience of the all-rounder and captain Angelo Matthews, and Dinesh Chandimal will strengthen the team great deal. Dhananjay De Silva, always a very good player to have. Handy. Coming to Mendes is the other spinner. Part-time spinners, one could call it. Niroshan Dikwala. There are two wicket keepers. They have three wicket keepers, in fact, along with Chandimal. Dineshun Dikwala and Nishan Madhushka has been selected. Now, Nishan Madhushka has been very, very impressive. He did well against India. He did well against the other team as well. So Nishan Madhushka has really got the nod, and he looks to be a very good prospect as well. And then they have Chamika Karunaratne, who's come in the mix as well. They have Ramesh Mendes, the spinner. Look at the pace bowling where the Sri Lankans have really, really stocked it with. Kasun Rajita, they have Lairu Kumara, the genuine pace bowler. Asita Fernanda, I'm very happy to say I'm really looking at what Asita Fernanda can do in New Zealand. I'm sure this bloke will really make some waves. Vishwa Fernando, I was really feeling for one player by the name Dilshan Madhushanka. He could not figure into the team, but I thought he was real test material. But nonetheless, they have gone for a rookie by the name Milan Ratnaike, who did well against England, and also the Sri Lankans, how the Aussies did some training back in Australia with some as you call clones, as we call nowadays. We have the cloning clones, so sort of a cloning thing where they were taking on a turning pitch. And here, Sri Lankans have gone to Radella, and they have really practiced there. It's at high altitude, so basically they have tried to recreate the New Zealand atmosphere into the Sri Lankan mix of things, where because of the high altitude, what happens is that the ball starts swinging, and these are the conditions that they're precisely going to counter when they go to New Zealand. So Sri Lankans have done, and we have to see what is the outcome of that when the series starts. But nevertheless, it has been a pleasure bringing you this cricket show, Cricket Happenings. As usual, it's curtains as far as this show is concerned for today, and look forward to having your company tomorrow on my next cricket show on a Sunday. Until then, it's goodbye.